most important decision you've got to make when building a shed is getting the right one. I needed room for a golf cart, a snow blower, a garden tractor, and I needed at least a 7-foot high door to get my golf cart in and out of it. The Glenwood from Best Barns seemed to be the right choice for me. It looked solid, easy to build, and I could get it at Home Depot. Probably your next most important decision is where to put it. For me, the woodlot behind my house seemed the logical choice. I wish I'd thought it through a little better because it meant I had to carry all of the materials for the shed up the hill in the back of my yard. A fork truck coming off the delivery truck could not get up there. Fortunately, I could use my golf cart. But in retrospect, I'm really glad I put it where it was. It was land I was not using, and after I got the materials up there, things went much better. One thing I had to consider was there's a lot of bugs in the woods, and so I wanted to put in my own floor made out of pressure treated. It would include putting in sonic tubes and pouring concrete footings for the base of the shed. I put in 15 sonic tubes, 5 rows of 3. My plan was to use 6x6 pressure treated on top of the concrete and then use 2x6 pressure treated on top of that. Here you can see how that all started to come together. Once I got this far along, I knew I had made the right decision about where to put it, even though it was a lot of work. One of the hardest parts was bringing up the flooring, which was 3/4 inch pressure treated plywood. That orange handle thing you can get from Home Depot and my golf cart helped me get most of it up the hill in the back of my house. As this all went together, you want to remember to be really careful with your measurements so that you save yourself any extra work. I ended up putting a few extra studs in just to give it extra support, but also because I wasn't quite on line with the 4x8 panels. Building the roof trusses, especially the gable ends, is really a breeze. Just follow the instructions in the incredibly well written manual. And I bought myself a nail gun, a DeWalt 20-volt battery operated nail gun for building most of the shed. And I'm going to tell you, it was the right decision for me. I ended up not having any help and put this whole thing up by myself. After I got the gable ends and the roof trusses built, it was time to get to work on the walls. And once again, follow the instructions. I tried to outsmart the instructions, and I ended up having to double up on several of the wall studs in order to get them to lay out correctly with where the plywood fit. And if you just follow the instructions, you won't have that problem. Then it was time, when the walls were up, to start thinking about getting the gable ends up. I had all these trees around the shed, so I ran ropes high up in the trees, and I bought a $27 block and tackle off of eBay, and I used that block and tackle to raise the gable ends up onto the 2 end walls. Here's a video of me doing this, and I'm going to shorten this up for your attention span will certainly give out before the video is complete. This went pretty easily. It took me about 5 to 10 minutes on each of the gable ends, and you need to make sure that you've got the rope that supports the block and tackle high enough in the trees that you have enough room to get it up to the top of the wall. I used screws to attach a 2x4 to the top of the gable end with a hole in it. I put a rope through the hole and connected the block and tackle to that. The block and tackle was new, $27 on eBay. Make sure you have your ropes high enough up in the trees so that when you connect your block and tackle, you can get the gable ends high enough to sit on top of the wall. Getting the roof trusses up was actually a breeze. I would put one end up on top of the wall on one side and then raise the other end of it up and slide them into the approximate position I wanted them. If you follow the instructions in the manual, you'll be marking the top plate as to their location, so it's not a mystery. I kept a rope coming from the far gable end, and I kept throwing it over the top of the one I was currently working on, and then I attached the rope to the top of the gable end with a simple slip knot. Just drop it around, come back around, and then give it a simple pass-through knot. This was just to help me get it up into place. I found trying to pull it with just the rope was too much, so I grabbed a 2x4 stud and found that if I used it to help me push while I was pulling on the rope, they went up pretty easily. My son was going to help me, but he got deployed in the Air Force and wasn't able to be around. My nephew was going to help me, but he got accepted at the State Police Academy, and so I wasn't able to have any help from him. So I ended up having to do this whole thing myself. But it really went pretty well, to be honest with you. I had a 2x4 attached to the top of the previously installed trusses here, so when I got it up into place, the friction between the top of the truss I just lifted and that 2x4 that was laying across the other trusses gave me a friction hold and held it into place. But I still tied the rope off to prevent it from hitting me in the head. So that was 4, and then here was 6, and finally all 8 trusses up into place. And it felt great to get that tarp over the top of that roof. The weather turned ugly for a couple days, but then I got back to it and got the roof on, and that went pretty well. I used shingles that matched my house. That door that you see there came from my kitchen. It was an old closet door, so I repurposed a door when I remodeled the house. The windows I got at Home Depot, $100 each. I put 4 of them in. For the sake of clarification, I built my own barn doors, and that's what the shed looks like finished. I bought it with no roof, no floor, no windows or doors. The kit was $4,400, and I think I spent $1,000 on the floor, and the hardware for the barn doors and the windows was another $600. The roofing shingles, I think it ended up being like 3.5 squares. I couldn't be happier with this shed. I'm confident it's going to last much longer than me. It was a total joy to build it. I've never built a building completely by myself before, and this shed does everything I want it to do. I love it. The quality of this shed and the quality of the manual was awesome. My wife and I are thrilled with our best Barns shed.